Hello BookTube, this is Brecky from Brecky Writes, this is Brecky Reads, and this is 25 bookish facts about me. I didn't learn to read from children's books, I learned to read from the Oxford Book of British Literature. This was one of my dad's college textbooks, which I affectionately termed the Big Green Book. My dad would read me Tennyson poetry and I would just memorize it, since that's how children learn to read. So yeah, no cat in the hat for Brecky. I really love rereading books. It's a bad habit in some ways, but rereading a book is like visiting an old friend. My two most often reread books are Little Women by Louisa May Alcott and The Blue Sword by Robin McKinley. I don't usually use bookmarks in my books. I use things like scraps of paper or business cards or unopened bills or paper clips. So kind of whatever is laying around. In college, I had the habit of sleeping with books in my bed. Not like a book, but like multiple books in bed, under the covers with me, because I was too lazy to take them off of my bed and put them back on their shelves. Because I'm super impatient and I hate waiting, I would prefer to wait to start a series until the last one is out and then just marathon the whole thing. About a third of the books I read every year are audiobooks. And about a third of the books I read every year are nonfiction books. I have a love affair with Irish literature, particularly contemporary, so post-1950s Irish literature. And this love affair was started when I studied abroad in Northern Ireland back when I was in undergrad. I took a couple of courses on contemporary literature and I have been hooked ever since. While I was studying Irish literature, I discovered Michael Longley. He is a poet from Northern Ireland and I have loved his poetry. He's now my favorite poet. But I don't love all Irish literature. I have had to read A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man 3 times for school and I absolutely abhor this book. Because I am generally an escapist reader, I prefer high fantasy novels over all other kinds of novels. However, I'm not really a fan of Lord of the Rings. I felt that all the description was really dense, I felt like it kept the action from happening, I felt like all that walking was really redundant, and there aren't that many kick-butt females for me to identify with. The only way I got through the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy was by listening to it on audiobook while I took walks. So I would walk for like an hour and just listen to an hour's worth of Lord of the Rings. That is how I got through the entire trilogy. This was about 3 years ago. However, I love The Hobbit. I've probably read this 3 or 4 times. This is my mom's copy, by the way. It has been through a lot in the last several years. My 2 favorite Shakespearean plays are The Merchant of Venice and Taming of the Shrew. This is one of my favorites in no small part because 10 Things I Hate About You is one of my favorite movies and reminds me so much of high school. When I was in high school, I was in a production of A Midsummer Night's Dream and I played Tom Snout the Tinker from the play within the play. I read almost all of the books by Laura Ingalls Wilder, so Little House in the Big Woods, Little House on the Prairie, Little House by Plum Creek, The Little Town on the Prairie, all of those books I read as a kid, mostly because my family were living history reenactors and that was the time period that we would reenact, so reading about a girl in the calico dresses running around the West was something that I kind of did as a hobby as a kid. I really love fairy tales and I have a ton of fairy tale books, from novelized retellings to collections of ethnic fairy tales, including some that are Norwegian fairy tales that my dad would read to me when I was a kid. And my favorite fairy tale of all time is Beauty and the Beast, and the many, many different ways that it is told across cultures. Beauty and the Beast is my favorite fairy tale. Give me all the redemptive love qualities. Come on. As far as other book tropes I love, one of my favorites is books about books, or books about bookstores or libraries or schools. I just happen to love the way that you can play with the fourth wall when you are writing a book about books or places where books live. I just think that's so much fun. As far as book tropes and genres I really don't like thrillers and horror because they ratchet up my anxiety and I actually can't even get through some of them. It just makes me way too anxious. I have published an essay in Time and Relative Dimensions in Faith in which I discuss Doctor Who and theology. When I was in college, I was the editor of my literary magazine both my junior and senior years. And finally, I am writing a book on werewolves in the Civil War, and I really hope that if I ever get it published, people feel about my books the way that I feel about some of my favorites, like Six of Crows or Uprooted. I really, really hope to engender in my readers the same kind of joy and excitement and curiosity that I feel for some of my favorite books. So this was my 25 bookish facts about about me. I hope they've helped you to get to know me a little bit better. If you have any questions about some of the facts that I have mentioned, please leave them down below. I would love to know one bookish fact about each of you. That would be such a great way for us to get to know each other a little bit better. If you have not done this and you want to, consider yourself tagged. This has been going around for a while, and I don't know if it was a tag or just a video. So if you want to do it, I invite you to do it and let me know so I can check it out. I hope you guys are doing well, and I will talk to you soon. Bye!